I was so wrong about this watch at first glance. I thought it was a cheap Chinese replica. It isn't cheap, it isn't Chinese, and it isn't a replica. This is one of only 300 made Audemars Piguet skeletonized watches from 1985. In the rotor here, do you see the AP? I'm quite aware that they skeletonized watches before this, but in this fashion and in this style, all skeletonized watches after 85 are all copies of this. This is the original in this way of doing. It is stunning. I'll show you under the microscope a bit of more detail, because I am going to show you first what for me is so lovely about the watch. That is that one, that one, that one, and that one. Those are rubies, but sideways, and the rotor is revolving over those rubies just to reduce the friction, and it is lovely. Only one tiny mistake in the way of doing. I'll show you. This is just so lovely to see. Here. The only mistake I could see is the pellet fork. Of course, I'm a pellet fork fetishist. This is the face side, so with the hands. But usually the pellet fork is only visible from the balance side, the work side. And if you have a look here, so from the back it is perfect. Just look at the black polish and the rubies. But this is from the back view, and usually it isn't visible here from the dial side. That's the only thing I could find. Here in greater detail is the ruby bearing of the rotor for the automatic winding system, and that is, look at this, a ruby, not too much friction, and that is, well, supporting the rotor. And these dots, those shiny dots, are the tips of the screw, not the screw head, but the tip is perfectly domed and highly polished. All is hand engraved, and especially the here setting lever spring. Just the design, the detail and the execution, because this is all carbon steel with linear graining, but even that part is skeletonized, so you can see all gears underneath. Just remember 1985, that the quartz revolution is sky high. Who is going to buy another mechanical watch? Completely different how we think about it now, because at that time, and maybe still is, quartz is the perfect movement. You don't have to wind it. It is so much more accurate, at least, well, 100 times, just about. Magnetism is no problem, and during that time the engineers of Audemars Piguet made this just about the pinnacle of mechanical watches at that time. And this is the dial side. So for the movement, the back, you see the skeletonized AP here on the rotor, AP, and here the 21. That means solid gold weight here in the rotor for the automatic winding. Just because gold is so heavy, so the rotor is functioning better with just the heavy weight at the end. So they used gold. Not because it's nice, not because it's expensive. It is functional, it is beautiful. Everything hand engraved, and if you have a look at it, you cannot stop watching and admiring the craftsmanship. Just here the ratchet wheel. It's so well done. It's beautiful. Here, Audemars Piguet. So at first glance I thought, yeah, cheap replica. But then again, the client who brought it and kindly allowed me to show it has such a stunning collection of watches. I thought there is no way he's got a cheap reproduction, and of course he didn't. Everywhere you look, it is just lovely. And of course, if you see the hand engraving, it isn't perfect. But then again, the human eye is trained to see differences. Otherwise, if it was that perfect, and that's why a guilloche from a machine, a CNC machine, looks boring and dull, because the human eye is trained to see a difference, something that is not aligned. Otherwise, you'll be exhausted by driving a car just for a kilometer or a mile. If you register everything, it is way too much information. So you only see the deviations, and that's what makes it interesting. Otherwise, you'll be just exhausted looking at the field with grass or a meadow. If you register every single grass. Isochronism, and here the information: hot, cold, adjusted, 36 joules, automatic, Audemars Piguet, Swiss. It is just beautiful, and adjusted there in 5 positions. If you hold this to a cheap Chinese skeleton watch, which is nice and which is a gateway drug for people into mechanical watchmaking and appreciating mechanical watchmaking, but this is a completely other level. This is the original. And there, the perfect pellet fork. And this is the back, the balance side. So this side is beautifully finished, but because it's a skeleton and usually you don't see through the dial, now the dial side of the pellet fork is unfinished. Look at this. That's the only thing I could find that was not completely fold through, because usually you don't see this side of a pellet fork because the dial is over it. This is just watchmaking that is breathtakingly beautiful at a time, and I think that is the most important to realize from what era it is, the mid-80s. Nobody, well, was that interested in mechanical watchmaking anymore. And why would you? And then they came up with this, only 300 made by Audemars Piguet. Don't you just love that, the insanity of watchmaking? You can look at it all day. Such a lovely piece. I really do hope you enjoyed it as much as I do, because this is really something else. The original 1985, one of only 300 Audemars Piguet made. Really do hope you enjoyed it. Hey, see you soon. See ya. Bye bye.